For sure, every one of us that's created models had to use the break or the continue statement inside a for loop to control its execution. But what do you do when you get to nested for loops? Have you ever heard about using labels? Hi, I'm Jacoben and welcome to the AnyLogic Modeler YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at how can you use labels inside for loops to better control the execution of these loops. So we're going to start off with a very simple example. So imagine we've got a simulation here. We've got our custom car agent, and inside our custom car we've got a population of parts, and there's also a function here to send a car to a mechanic. And inside parts there is a variable called defective, which is just randomly true or false whether it's defective or not for this specific part, and then a function to return is defective because the defective variable is set to private. Now if we go to main, let's say we want to send our first defective car that we find inside the population to a mechanic because the mechanic can only service one car at a time. So we'll go for each car of type car in the population cars. We are going to cycle through all of the parts in that car. So we can go car.parts, right? And if we find a part that is defective, we actually want to send this car to the mechanic, right? So go to mechanic. But now what we don't want to do is we don't want to have this for loop cycle through all the cars and cycle through all the parts. So ideally here we want to break, right? So we want to stop and say, listen, we found a defective part in this car, let's send it to the mechanic. If we run this model as is, it's going to find the first defective part, and then it's going to move on to the next car and the next car and the next car. So we're going to end up having to send all the cars to the mechanic, which is not what we want. So in order to prevent that, one way would have been to say, okay, well, let's create a local Boolean variable here called car found. And as soon as we find a car, we can set this variable to true. Okay. And then what we can do is, as soon as we now call this break statement, this means that we're going to exit this for loop, right? So the break statement is going to exit the current for loop that you're in. And so we're going to exit out here at the bottom. But then we also want to break this current for loop. So we can also go if car found is true, then we also want to break this for loop, right? And then maybe we continue with this function at the bottom, right? If we were literally just going to stop this function immediately, we could have called the return statement there as well, which would have caused this function to just immediately stop exactly where it is and exit the entire function. But let's say there is something else that we want to do here at the bottom as well. Okay. So if that's the case, then we rather want to break and then continue further on, right? So this is great, but as you can see, we had to create a local variable. We had to call break twice. Now there is another way of doing this. What we could have done is we could have labeled this for loop. So we could have called this is our car loop, and we use a double colon instead of a semicolon. And then when we said car go to mechanic, we could just state, listen, I want you to break the car loop. So I'm telling you which for loop I want you to break. And now the code is a lot simpler. We've removed the variable, we've removed a few lines of code. So this is a lot easier. Now, the other thing that you can also do with the labeling of your loops by using this like a label and your double colon is that we can also use it in the continue statement. So here we've got another agent called supplier. We've got 100 of them living on main. And inside supplier, we've got a little function called stock available, which is simply checking for the specific part we specified, do we have stock available or not, right? So if we go back to main, what we can do now is, let's say that the mechanic now has got the capability to accept a queue of cars, so they can all wait there, but we only want to send them there if we know that we've got stock, right? So before we call your car go to mechanic, we first want to find out for all our suppliers in the suppliers population, we want to check whether or not you actually have stock. Okay, so if there is at this supplier, if the supplier has stock available of this specific part, right? Then we want to tell the car to go to the mechanic, but we don't want to break our car loop now. We want to continue it, right? So we're going to say if you found a part that's defective and any one of the suppliers, any one of them have got stock of this product, of this part, then we just want to continue and move on to the next car. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. If you like these videos, feel free to subscribe or visit our blog at the AnyLogicModeler.com. See you soon.